Hey all, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we'll be making this recipe app where we have a list of recipe which we can click in to reveal the details page where we have all the list of ingredients which we can increase by increasing the slider. With that being said, let us go in and start coding. Now, to create a recipe app, firstly we need to gather some recipe pictures. For that, come to your browser and write unsplash.com. This is a website from where you can download royalty-free pictures, so pictures you really don't have to pay for. Also, similarly, you could come to pexels.com, a site same as Unsplash, from where you can download royalty-free pictures. I'll go with Unsplash now. So first, I would like to download spaghetti and meatballs. So let's search SPAGHETTI. Let's write spaghetti and meatballs. My bad. Alright, this one here looks like something that I could use. So let's open it up in a new tab. Now to download this picture, let's right click and save image. Now something to note. This name here is a very unintuitive name, which you really don't want to use inside your app. I'm sure you cannot remember what this even is, right? So the best thing is to remove it and name it SPGHATTI and meatballs, spaghetti and meatballs. This is a name that you can actually remember and use inside your Flutter app. So spaghetti and meatballs, let's save it. Let's download tomato sauce soup. Let's just go with this one. Let's name it tomato soup. Let's download grilled cheese now. Could just use this one. Let's download grilled _ cheese. Let's download chocolate chip cookies. Let's go with this one, shall we? And let us download. Let's get a taco salad. Go with this. Now lastly, let's get a Hawaiian pizza. Now, you might differ with me. Personally, I love Hawaiian pizza. I am the guy who likes pineapple on pizza. Alright, so now we have 6 pictures which we can now use for our app. Now to build the app, I have already dragged my Flutter folder, and now I'll just do Flutter create recipe. Let's build it up. Let's bring my recipe app into VS Code. Since we have just downloaded all the pictures, I'd like to add the pictures first. So let's click here in our project view and let's make a new folder, ASSETS assets, where I want to drag all of my pictures. Let's go to downloads, let's gather it all and let's drag it into assets. So assets now have all the pictures that I need. Now I have to go to pubspec.yaml to tell Flutter that I have some third-party assets to use. Here, around line 60-61, you can see these 2 lines here, assets, until display JPEG here. Let us uncomment it. And now let's just remove this. Assets / This name should be the same as your folder name. So the folder name and then a slash. Let's Ctrl S. Alright, we are good to go. Let's close it off. Let's go to main.dart, where we can run our app now. Alright, so let's cross this widget inspector page. And now I am going to remove everything here and let us start coding. So first we need to import material.dart and then our void main method. What is wrong? Alright, so void main, and the void main needs a run app method where we want to start a recipe app. So let us make the recipe app first. I need a stateless widget for this, and I'll name it to recipe app. Now let's change it to a material app first because we need something to click on that will start the app. So material app, let us change the title to be recipe calculator. I'll also turn the debug show checkmark banner to false so that we do not have this false anymore. Let us do a theme. For the theme, firstly, I'll go above this return and make a new variable. So final theme data theme equals to theme data. This theme data is the type of the data that the variable has. The variable has a theme data class, so the return type is the theme data. Here we can come to theme dot copy width and then choose the color scheme and say theme dot color scheme dot copy width, and inside we can tell primary to be colors dot gray, and for secondary colors dot black. So now after the theme data we can come and ask the home parameter. For the home parameter we are going to pass a home page, same as we passed here. So now we have to make a new class. So let's get out of this class and let's make a new stateful widget, which I'll name it to be a home page. Now we do not have the error anymore. For the home page, we can come here and return a scaffold that will show our first page, scaffold. And if I restart the app, here we have our scaffold. The scaffold can have an app bar, which takes the title of text, and I can name it recipe app. Now, this is one way of passing a title to the app bar. The other way could be I could pass a string here at this home page, and then I can retrieve it from this widget class and use it here. To do that, firstly I have to come to this homepage state here, homepage widget class, and do some configuration. To do that, I can write final string title, and now pass the title to this parameter, so required this dot title. Now you see we have an error here because now homepage is expecting a required parameter. So let's pass the title, which is a string. So I can just pass a string, and I'll pass recipe cal calculator. Now we can come to this text here, this app bar text, and remove this. To access this widget class, we just have to write widget dot title, because this here is the widget class. So to access this, we have to call widget dot title. Now if we save it, You see, we have an updated value here. Now, one thing to note, this main file should only have this stateless recipe class here, right? Not this homepage. The homepage is something that we can see, which is a page. So we can come to this lib, make a new folder called screens. Inside it, let's make a new file, home, screen.dart, where we can get this entire home page, cut it, remove it, and bring it here. Now you see we have an error because this file doesn't know what stateful widget is, what build context is, what scaffold is. To use them all, we have to import material.dart here too. So let us import it, and now everything is alright. Also in main.dart, where we are using this home page, we have to tell main.dart that the home page widget lives in a separate file now. So we can come to home page and import this here. So we have this import, and this file now knows of this widget. Alright. Now, in the home page, I want to have list of recipe here that has an image and a name which I can click to go to a new page. To do that, firstly, I have to make a model. A model could be created by coming to lib and make a new folder called models, where I want to make a recipe model of what a recipe should look like. So let's make a new file, recipe.dart. So this is a new class, so class recipe. Now, what are the things that a recipe must have? String label, the name of the recipe, string image URL, the image address of the recipe, int servings, the amount of people that the recipe will be eaten by, and finally a list of ingredients, which I can name ingredient. Now you see this is here is a class which doesn't exist for this app. So let's make one. We can come above this recipe class and make a new class here, because just like a recipe is a combination of all these things. Ingredients are a combination of many things too, like class ingredient. An ingredient should have double measure to say how many cups of olive oil you want. String measure, my bad, it should be a double quantity, how many cups of olive oil you want, with what you want, is it a cup or what, and string name, so what is it that you want. Now let's make a constructor here. To make a new constructor, you have to repeat the class name, so the class name followed by a bracket, and write this dot name, this dot quantity, this dot measure. I'll take the name at the end. You don't have to do this, just me. It's me doing it, don't worry. It's alright. Now, here, for this recipe class, we need a constructor too. So let's repeat the name recipe, where we are going to pass this dot label, this dot image URL, this dot servings, and this dot ingredients. So our recipe is a combination of these four things from my point of view. And since we need a list of ingredients for each recipe, an ingredient class should be made separately because ingredient itself is a combination of many things. Now, within this recipe class, let's make a list, static list of this recipe here, which I'll name samples. Let's make it equal to a list because this is a list. And now let us start building our recipe. So our recipe should have these four things. Let's name it to chocolate chip cookies. The image URL should be the same name as your name here, the exact same name. So chocolate_chip_cookies.jpg. So here, let's make it a string, and then I have to access assets / chocolate chip cookies.jpg. Let us remove this. Servings, let us make it to 24. And for ingredients, we need to pass a list. So the list let's call an ingredient class, ingredient. The quantity should be 4. Measure should be cups. And name should be flour. So we need 4 cups of flour. This is one ingredient for this recipe. Now the other ingredient could be ingredient 2 cups of sugar. The third ingredient should be 0.5 cups of chocolate chips. So this here is a complete recipe that has a name, a location to the image, the number of servings, and the list of ingredients. This is the raw class, and this is the class that we can use. So now let me copy this recipe here, and I'll just change it. I'll change it to be tomato soup, and tomato soup could be accessed here. So we have the exact same address, assets /tomatosoup.jpg. So tomato soup.jpg. Tomato soup has 2 servings, and the ingredient list only has 1. We need 1 can of tomato soup. That's it for this recipe. Let us make a new recipe now. I'll name it to be SPAGHETTI spaghetti, and meatballs, which we can access from here, SPAGHETTI, and meatballs. This has a serving of 2 or 4, and the ingredient list is 1 box of spaghetti, 4 meatballs, and 0.5 jars of sauce. So 0.5, half a jar of sauce. Let's make a new recipe now. Let's name it grilled cheese. Which could be accessed here at grilled. Now you see why the naming is important, how you name your downloaded picture, because this is something that you can remember. For grilled cheese, we have 1 serving, and the ingredient is 2 slices of cheese and 2 slices of bread. This is all we need for this recipe here. Now for the other recipe, let's make a taco salad, which we can access here. Taco salad, which has a serving of 1 and should have 4 pounds of nachos, 3 pounds of taco meat, 0.5 cup of cheese, and 0.25 cup of chopped tomato. Now for the last recipe, I want the Hawaiian pizza. Which we could access here. The Hawaiian pizza has a serving of 4, and the ingredients are as follows. So 1 item pizza, we need 1 pizza. We need 1 cup, let us remove this, 1 cup of pineapple, and 8 pounds, my bad, of shrimp. So this is it for our recipe, which now we can show in the screen here. Here, back in home screen, after the app bar, we can call the body, and the body can have a safe area first, which has a child of column. My bad, not a column, but a list view builder. The list view builder is going to find the list that we have in the recipe.dart, this list here, and make each recipe a UI component. To do that, first we have to call item count. An item count could be accessed by accessing the recipe class, where we have a sample list, and by getting the length of it. Now to build the item, we need the item builder, which takes a function, and it always has a context and an index. Now let us return a cart, which has a child of column, where we want the image dot asset. To get the asset image for each item, we have to go to recipe dot sample at index. This at index is coming from this index here. At index dot image URL. Then we need a text where we can take the name by going to recipe dot samples at index dot label. Now if we control save it, we have all the images here. What is wrong with tomato sauce? Let's go back to recipe.dart, and also I'll just check what's up here. Tomato soup. My bad. It should be tomato soup, and it indeed is tomato soup. Tomato soup.jpg. Not really sure what's up. Oh, the mistake is with spaghetti and meatballs. So SPAGHA. My bad. I wrote here mistakenly. Should be HA. Should be HE though. My bad. Whatever. Now if we restart it. We still have an error. Why? Let me copy the entire thing and let me put it here. Alright, so now we have it. I had an error here, so an error is not acceptable. It has to be the same like what it is here, and now it is something that we can see. Now let us do some styling. For the cart, we have elevation, which we can set to 12. And now you see we have an elevated cart. Also, we have shape. Shape takes a rounded rectangle border, which has a border radius parameter, where we can pass a border radius class of circular of 12. We have rounded cards. Now we need rounded photos. To have rounded photos, I need this line here, because photos has a class that could be wrapped around it, known as clip or rect, which in turn takes a new border radius. And now you see we have the photos being rounded too. Now we can have some padding. Also, for this card, we can wrap it with some padding. This looks nice. One thing that I would like to do is come down here, take the chocolate chip and tomato sauce recipe and bring it down, because the pictures are a bit longer than the others. Alright, this is something that I like. Now, just how we made new folders and separated everything that are not related to this file, this padding here, this entire card here with the padding, is a viewing widget that has no logic in it. So I can come to this padding here, a padding that has all this thing, right? I can come to this padding and extract this widget, and I can name it build recipe card. So now we just have this instead of the whole big thing. Now recipe.cart has an error because this class doesn't know of this index, this I. This I here represents integers, index that could be changed to change the cart or the recipe. So I have to do some configuration here. Come and write here int I and pass it to the here where I can say required this dot I. Now we have no errors. We could just come to this build recipe card and pass the I here that it so needs, and this I happens to be this I, which we already have. So let's pass this I. This I is expecting an integer which this I is giving us. So it's a relationship that is fulfilled. Now, why do I have this error? Alright. Now I can take this entire card here, cut it, make a new folder under lib called widgets, and let's make a new file, build recipe card.dart, build recipe card. Here I need to import material.dart, which I can now easily paste. Don't know what's wrong. Import material.dart. Alright. Now this file here doesn't know of this recipe, so I have to import it. Go back to home screen where we are using this build recipe card, and I have to tell this file about this widget here, about its location. Now we are all good. So this was our first part of this app where we have a list of recipe, which now I want to make it clickable. So when I click it, I want a new page to come up where we can see the image, the list of the ingredients, and a slider that I can slide to increase the number of servings, right? So let's make a new page under strings, and I'll make it recipe underscore details.dart. Here let us import material.dart, and let's make it a stateful widget, recipe details. This new page should give us a scaffold, and we need an app bar where we can pass a title of a text that says nothing. So now how can we build this page? We can go to recipe build card where we have this card here and wrap this with a new widget. It's called a gesture detector. The gesture detector widget has an on-tap property that can detect touch. So for the on-tap, within the second bracket, an on-tap has to take a function. So for the second bracket, I need a navigator dot off context dot push. Here I'll pass material page route, and this here has to be the one with push. This bracket push has to be a semicolon. For the builder, I need a function where I need to pass the context that I'm getting, this context here, and I want to return recipe details. Now this first bracket and second bracket here is something that you can use, or you can go the other route. The other route is to not use this and just provide the context and the arrow to recipe details page, and this is it. Now if we press it, we come to a new page where it says nothing. But nothing is not what I want. I want each and every page to have the same name as the name that we touch, right? So let us complete this widget here. We can have final string label final string image URL. Also, since we want to show the list of ingredient here, we also need to access the recipe. So final recipe. Now we have to come to the constructor and make all of these required parameters. So let's do that. Required this dot label, required this dot image URL, required this dot recipe. You see, I have to have an angle bracket here, which for no reason got removed, so let us add it. Now we are good to go. Now this class here, this recipe details, is always expecting these three parameters to be passed, which we are not doing here, where we have made this recipe details, right? So let us pass all of those. For the label, we want recipe dot sample at index. This index is coming from here. Dot label. For the image URL, we are going to do the same recipe dot sample at index dot image URL. For the recipe, we want to pass the recipe dot sample at index. This is it. We don't have to pass anything else because we want to pass the entire recipe to here. I don't need this widget here, this title test. Let's remove it. Alright, very good. So now we can come to this build recipe details, where for this text here, I want to go to the widget class to get this label, widget dot label. And now we have spaghetti and meatballs. If we go to grilled cheese, we have grilled cheese. If I come to taco salad, we have it. Now underneath it, I want the body, where I want to pass a column with children, where I want the image dot asset. I want to show the image, so image dot asset, and I can access the image by going to widget dot image URL. After that, let's make a sized box of height 50, and then we need an expanded widget. Now this expanded widget is interesting. Why? Because column takes the full height of the screen and is not scrollable by default. List view builders, on the other hand, is scrollable by default. So now you have a relationship that cannot coexist, right? Because column doesn't scroll and list view builders has to scroll. So we need expanded. Expanded is a widget that will wrap around the list view builder and it will only take the available space and make this space scrollable. So here I'll pass list view dot builder where I want to pass the item count first. So the item count should be accessed by going to recipe. My bad, I already have the recipe here, so I can go to widget dot recipe dot ingredients at dot length. So the list of this list here, right? To have the item builder, I need a function where I need the context and index, and here I want to return a text where I want to go to widget dot recipe dot ingredients at dot name. Now you see I have to write this over and over again for name, for measure, and for name, measure, and the other thing. So to remove this, let's cut it off. Let's come here and let's make a new variable, final in gredient ingredient equals to this. So now I can just write here in ingredient.name, and this is all right. Likewise, let's cut it off, Ctrl X. Let's bring the string interpolation because I want to have everything in one line. So here I can write ingredient dot quantity and then a new one, my bad, $sign, new one. Here I can pass ingredient dot measure and then a $sign, ingredient dot name. Now we have this 1 box of spaghetti, 4 meatballs, 0.5 jar of sauce. Let us do some styling. After this entire string here, we can call style, text style, and call font size to be 30. Now this is all good and right. We have quantity for each and everything. Now the thing is, I want a slider for each of this recipe here, a slider that I can slide, and for each increment of people, I want this to increase. So let's give the const here. And after this expanded, let's call a slider. A slider is a widget that will give you something to slide. So slider has some values that must be given. So let's call min first. I want the minimum to be 1, the maximum to be 10, and the division, number of divisions, to be 10. Now we need a value. I'll just give it to 1 first. And we need onChanged. Now this onChanged here, let's just pass nothing first to see what it looks like. You see we have it here. Now to bring this up outside this, because here it's not safe, we can wrap this entire column with a new widget called the safe area. Alright, this is pretty safe. Also, while we are here, let's finish the design first. The active section should be colors dot green, and the inactive section should be colors dot black. Alright, and you see we have 10 divisions here. Now let's make a variable that should be updated as we update this, and then the variable could be multiplied with the values here to update the number. So we can come to this widget class here, widget build class, on top of which we have override, and let's make int slider val equals to 1. Because the slider should never be 0, should it? You're never going to order food for 0 people. Let's change this value to be slider value dot to double, because this value expects a double, but our slider value is an integer, so we have to convert this to a double. Now this onChanged is going to give us value when we change it, right? It's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like this. So let's name it val, and in the second body, we can come and do a set state of slider val, the variable that we just created up here. I want this variable to update as we move the slider. So this value that we get as we slide should be changed to this. Alright. Because slider expects an integer and value is giving us a double, so we have to change this value to an integer. Now we can change it. Alright, so now we are showing everything here, and here we have the ingredient of quantity. So the quantity, then the measure, so the box and jar, and then the name, so the name's here. All we can do is come here and multiply it with the slider value and save it. Now, moment of truth, let us increase. Alright, we have our app up and running here. Let's change it. Let's go to taco salad and let's change this. That is great. Let's go to pizza. Let's change this. Awesome. So this was it for this app. I'll see you in the next one.